The 11th of April, Rabbi Furst, Haggada.
Okay, so we're in the Haggada. We're learning the psukim. The derech of a large part of Magid, the Haggada, is that it's based on midrashim and Chazal, Gemara's, Mishnayos, and the more classically will take a pasuk and darshan the pasuk, and here also the Haggada will quote several psukim throughout the course of the Haggada, and we'll darshan the psukim. So that's what we did. We quoted in the Haggada the pasuk in Devarim, and we were just by Anus Alpi Adibur, right? You have it there in your Haggada, Anus Alpi Adibur. Yaakov Avinu went down to Mitzrayim. He was compelled to do it by the command of the Kadosh Baruch.
Alpi Hadibur, I see it, yes.
Okay, you can start if you like.
Okay, Vayagar Sham, and he dwelled there. Melamed Shalo Yarad Yaakov Avinu Lehish Takea b'Mitzrayim. That we learn that Avraham Avinu did not descend to sink down into Mitzrayim, Ella Lagur Sham, rather to gar there, which I guess gar means what, to temporarily live?
Yeah, like to live in a temporary. Yistakei is like to be completely immersed in the Egyptian culture and society.
Right.
Rather, he was just gar there. He was just like a sojourner, just a passer through.
Okay, so in other words, it's focusing on the word gar. I guess it could have said Vayashav Sham.
Right, Yashav would be, he's really setting up and intending to stay, maybe even indefinitely.
Right.
When you say a person's a Toshev, he's like a citizen. Yaakov never intended to become an Egyptian citizen.
Right. Shene'emar, Vayomru El Paro, Lagur Be'eretz Banu. As it says, and they said to Paro, to sojourn, oh, that's the word I wanted, sojourn, to sojourn in the land we have come. Ki ein mar'eh latzon asher la'avadecha, because there is not enough for the flocks that are your servants. Ki kaved ha-ra'av be'eretz Canaan, because the famine is heavy in the land of Canaan. Vata.
This was the famine that struck at the time of Yosef, right?
Right.
There were it was supposed to be 7 years of good, which came about. There were 7 years of good, and then 7 years of famine. And when Yaakov Avinu arrived, 2 of the 7 years had passed already.
Right.
So you see, and the whole famine was caused in order that Yaakov Avinu should come down to Mitzrayim. You see what the Kadosh Baruch will do. You can think of it. If you just go through the psukim, you'll see there was a great amount of suffering on the part of the people throughout the whole world at the time, in Canaan, in Mitzrayim. So You see how Kadosh Baruch Hu, in order to cause something to happen to the Jewish people, the whole world may have to suffer. It's a frightening thing.
So do we understand that this is the broad brush effect that, the disaster, if a disaster strikes one person on the block, everybody gets affected because they happen to be there? Or we understand that there was Hashgacha process going on and Hashem was mitigating the circumstances for certain people?
Yeah, definitely was a Shaka protest, meaning Paro had the dreams, right? These dreams of Paro, like the Mitzrayim, where the Egyptians were very skilled in interpreting dreams and dealing with all kinds of mystical sciences and all these kind of things. But the fact that Paro had the two dreams and the fact that no one else could give him a satisfactory interpretation of his dreams except Yosef, which was miraculous. He was in, as the pasuk says, he was a nar eved ivri, right? All the worst possible. Now you can't even call them disqualifications. They're disqualifications, not qualifications. Disqualifications. An Eved can't become a ruler, right? A Jew can't become a ruler in a foreign land. These were not even qualifications. It was disqualified from many counts, many aspects. And nevertheless, Yosef became the Mishnah the Melech. It was absolutely miraculous. The tremendous hashgacha protest taking place.
Well, I'm asking something different. I'm asking, what about, you talked about the whole world is suffering in order for this to be accomplished. So what about the righteous Gentile in Ethiopia? Was he spared by Hashgacha Pratis, or was he suffering because it was just happening everywhere?
I don't really know. I know it does speak about that there were various tzaddikim alive at the time of the Mabul. But Noach was the only one that was spared in his family. So, because I'll say that Kadosh Baruch Hu, rather than the tzaddikim of the time having to go through the terrible ordeal of being drowned at the time of the Mabul, Kadosh Baruch Hu had them die peaceably in their beds before the Mabul began.
Right. I heard that also.
So there is a shkaka practice. Kadosh Baruch Hu will spare tzaddikim. When and exactly how and why, so that's a little bit beyond me. But there are examples where it does happen.
Right.
There are examples to the opposite that they're not saved. Matter of fact, the Gemara says that if things are going to start, if bad things, Chas v'sholom, are going to start, it starts with the tzaddikim.
Right.
That's a Gemara. I think it's a Gemara in Tainus. I've forgotten. So this is up to the wisdom of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's very hard to know when and how these things apply.
Right. Okay, so Ve'ata yeshivu na avadecha be'eretz Goshen. And now yeshivu is to live.
I'd like 12.
And now
We say in the davening, Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha, right? Yoshvei Veisecha.
right.
You call it a yeshiva. Yeshivas, because
But
basically that's
it's the opposite of the point. We said the whole point was that it's not using the word yashav, it's using the word yagar. Why is it not switching and saying that we're gonna settle down in Goshen?
right. There are like three different levels. There's like the gar, which is like just basically to pass through temporarily. Then there's the opposite extreme, listakeh. Listakeh is to become immersed.
Right.
And then Yoshev is like to dwell there, whether it's going to be on a permanent basis or a temporary basis is not really clear. It's sort of like a parv type of an expression. It might be able to go both ways from time to time.
But I had learned something different from Parshas Vayeshev. It says Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz Megari Aviv. Yaakov dwelled in the land of the sojournings of his fathers, and I learned that the juxtaposition of the two words Vayeshev and Yagar was to teach us that whereas the other avot were just treating their dwelling place as a temporary sojourning, Yaakov decided he was going to settle down and relax, and because of that, the next sentence says Yosef, and that's the whole beginning of the story of the selling of Yosef, to show that that's Hashem's response to Yaakov and the word Vayeshev.
Right, correct. You're right. And I think if you have the Chumash Bereshis there with the Rashi, I think Rashi says Bikesh Yaakov Liyeshev B'Shalva. Rashi makes an important addition over here. He says he wanted to dwell there B'Shalva, meaning with in tranquility and in peacefulness.
Right.
Well, so even though the pasuk doesn't say it, but Rashi's saying, Chazal tell us the intention of what he was going to do. So you see, meaning Yeshev could be a very generic term, and it depends what the person's kavanah is and how he's being Yoshev. Meaning he was going to settle, but what was his intention in settling? Also, when they said to Paro they want to settle there in Mitzrayim, they didn't want to settle in Mitzrayim. They didn't want to be like nomads in Mitzrayim. They could have decided to be like nomads in Mitzrayim, wandering from place to place in Mitzrayim.
Right.
But wanted to have a place to settle, even though they were only coming there in general temporarily. But at least while they were there, they wanted to be there in a settled fashion.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, you have to. So I think it's important to see the context when it uses this word again, like we use that pasuk in Tehillim, Asher Yoshev Eisecha, right? So David HaMelech is saying it's praiseworthy a person who's dwelling in his house, right?
Right.
And on the other hand, Yaakov Avinu was criticized for doing for that, right?
Right.
So David HaMelech is saying it's a praiseworthy thing, Yoshev Eisecha.
Well, but that's Hashem's house.
Well, okay. I mean, again, Yaakov Avinu, when we think about Yaakov Avinu, we have to realize that whatever Yaakov Avinu was doing, he was doing it probably for a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Yaakov Avinu was on a very high level, right?
Right.
He wasn't simply doing it that he could, sit in the sun in the beach chair with the pina coladas and then the music in the background there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But nevertheless,
hopeful.
did something wrong.
Well, right. In spite of the fact that he had good intentions, but that's not what a Kadosh Baruch Hu had intended for him. He was hoping that he'd be able to settle. He had, look, now he had a family. He had, could have, even at that time, Binyamin was born already. He had all his 12 sons. He was now ready to begin setting up Klal Yisrael. Right? I imagine, I'm not sure if I'm correct, I imagine Yaakov Avinu wanted now to be able to start dealing with each one of the brothers and dealing with them and teaching them all the things they needed to know in order to start and set up Klal Yisrael for until be a Segoyla until the end of days. But obviously Hashem said that's not the way it's going to be. We have to. Klal Yisrael needs a different type of training. We needed the training of Avdus in Mitzrayim, meaning Yaakov Avinu's intention to dwell b'shalva was, I would say, would be in order that he should be able to establish Klal Yisrael on the strongest basis of Avodas Hashem for all generations, according to what he thought and what he thought was proper and required. But the Kodesh Baruch Hu knew the best thing that we would and could have done to get ready for serving a Kodesh Baruch Hu, Makabel Torah Har Sinai, would be the what Chazal say, the Kor Barzel, the smelting pot of Mitzrayim. We had to go through the Shibud Mitzrayim in order to make ourselves into a nation. Yaakov Avinu thought it would be another way. Hashem understood better, and he said it's going to be this way, going down to Mitzrayim. I think that's exactly the point. When it said Yosef came right after Yaakov Avinu wanted to have that shalva, in order, as I think is the proper way of understanding Yaakov Avinu, in order to set up Klal Yisrael, that they should be able to eventually become a nation and accept the Torah and inherit Eretz Yisrael and build a Beis Hamikdash. He thought he could do it by he, as a father and a grandfather, being like a Rosh Yeshiva and teaching the what he knew to all his family. But Hashem said no, they need to have other lessons besides that to be able to eventually do what they were supposed to do in the eyes of a Kodesh Baruch. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So basically the sentence is we have come to sojourn in the land because there is no pasture for our flocks, and the famine is severe in Canaan. So now let us dwell in Goshen.
Right.
Because
that they were asking from Paro, they were asking to dwell. Meaning, if they asked to be nomads in Mitzrayim, so Paro would have maybe granted them that too. But they didn't want to be nomads. They wanted to have some type of a dwelling place in Mitzrayim.
would it have been better to be nomads?
I don't think so.
They needed to have a family structure. They needed to have yeshivas and things like that, right?
Right. Nomads is a very hard life.
Yeah. Okay, so b'matsei ma'at, with few people, kama shene'amar, I like that it is written, b'shiv'im nefesh, with 70 souls, yardu avosecha mitzrayma. Our fathers went down to Egypt. V'ata samcha Hashem Elokecha ki kochvei hashamayim larov. And now Hashem, your God, has made you like the stars of the heaven for abundance, for numerousness.
Right. So the question is here, was that something unique and special, miraculous even? I'm not sure. there must be some way of understanding it with how long it would take 70 people to generate into a nation of with the minimum of 600,000 men to basically 2 million people. I'm not sure. There must be some type of a way of generating that. How many generations it would take for that to happen? No, do?
Yeah, well, you would just have to establish a multiplication factor. You know, how many, it's going to be the average number of children per family. If you say it's going to be 4, if you think it's going to be 2, then there's going to be no growth. If you say it's going to be 4, then they're going to double every generation. If you double 10 times, you get 1 million. So if a generation is 20 years, so 210 years would be about 10 generations. So you should get about 70 million people.
So that's way over. Okay. I hear. Good.
But that's right. No deaths, no disease. You know, it's a very simple calculation.
Right. Okay. But I mean, because again, this is also a pasuk, right? The pasuk seems to be making a point about it, right?
Right. But also, it's not just 600,000 and 2 million, because that was after 4/5 died.
You're right. I forgot about that. You're right.
So it would be 10 million. So now you're still not in the ballpark of six children per birth. You're in the ballpark of one child per birth, and the average mother having 4 children, which is not miraculous, particularly. So I don't know. I mean, the numbers. There's lots of problems with the numbers, because if you're having children per family, then you're going to have a lot more children than adults. So you have to figure, if you have 600,000 men, 600,000 women, you have to have millions and millions of children, which doesn't necessarily really fit, because all those children will be becoming of age each year. You'd have, a flood of new 20-year-olds, increasing the numbers, and we don't see them increasing. We see them pretty much the same throughout the 40 years.
Right. During the last, just the last 80 years, that's when Paro was making when they actually started the gezeras, throwing the babies into the cement, into the river. I'm not sure how much the attrition of that was.
That's right. Yeah, there was a lot of dying going on. Yeah. It's not easy to. I mean, we can do rough ballparks, but it's not easy to get any kind of precision.
Right. Okay, let's continue on.
Okay, so Vayihi Sham Lagoy, and there it became a nation. Melamed shehayu Yisrael mitzuyanim sham, to teach that the Jews were mitzuyanim. My English says distinctive.
Distinctive, outstanding. They were outstanding, distinctive. I mean, they were even in the most basic ways they were distinctive. Meaning, even aside from the fact that they didn't change their clothes, they didn't change their language, they didn't change their names, right?
Right.
Which would have made them distinctive in themselves. But don't forget that the Klal Yisrael coming from Shem, and the Mitzrayim coming from Canaan, they were basically from two different races, meaning the Jews there were Caucasians, right? And
Right.
the Mitzrayim were colored. So it was very, aside from the clothes and their names and the language, it was very easy to spot a Jew.
How do we know that the Jews were Caucasians?
They came from Shem.
Okay. So how do we know Shem was Caucasian? We know it says that Ham or what does it say? It says the children of Ham were black. I'm trying to remember now what it says. It says after Noach said the curse, I think it was the children of Ham that were black. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so. And also Avram Avinu, when Avram Avinu and Sarah first went to Mitzrayim, so Avram Avinu, Rashi explains, he cautioned Sarah that they're now going to a place going amongst black people, Kushim, and she was of a fair color, and she would be very, very distinctive and outstanding.
Oh, right. That Rashi says that. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember the Rashi? That's in Parshas Vayera, I think Vayera.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so I'm just a little bit speculative about it because we know that we have Jews of all colors nowadays. I'm not talking about Ethiopians. I'm talking about, like the Yemenites can be very dark.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that could be because of I don't know, maybe environmental conditions. I'm not sure how those things affect the skin color. I'm not, I really don't know.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, some of those.
Seem distinctive meant in terms of accomplishments, not in terms of appearance.
Yeah, that's the I would say that's the plain meaning, but
right.
Because again, the fact that we became outstanding and that we were so numerous, like that caused a certain fear on the part of the Egyptians.
Right.
They get the feeling they were going to get pushed out of their own country, then they're going to be inundated by these Jews.
Right. Right. But even today we have, anti-Semitism. It's not when they talk about the Jewish lobby or the Jewish, the international Jewish, whatever they call it, the, financial, controlling the world. It has nothing to do with color, even though the Jews are Caucasians and the people they're dominating are Caucasians. There's still this fear of the Jews taking over and taking charge because of our accomplishments.
Yeah. So that after maybe let me put my program to work and see if any of the Mefarshim explain in what way we're actually Mitzionim.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Let's take a look at that. Okay. In the meantime, let's continue on.
Gadol Atzum, great and mighty. Kama Shene'amar, as it is stated, Uvnei Yisrael Peru v'yish Ratzu, the year bu, v'ya'atzmu, b'ma'od ma'od, v'ti malay haaretz osam. And the children of Israel multiplied, and I guess this was they increased greatly, like insects, and they were multiplied. I guess again, they were fruitful. They increased greatly and multiplied strongly, very, very much, and the land was filled with them. So there's your miracle. There's your emphasis with all those words, that this was not any kind of a normal progression.
That's true.
And that's quoting from Shmos.
Yeah, does it say which pasuk that is?
1:7.
Okay. I'm going to try and look it up and see if there's any explanation about what was the, simply meaning, how do we understand that they were outstanding? If they were a lot, right? If they can have a lot and they don't have to be outstanding, you know what I mean?
Right? Yes. But if their multiplication is very unnatural, that in and of itself, I think, would make the other people, cognizant of something is unusual here.
Right.
Yeah, Rashi says on the word v'yishritzu, they would give birth to 6 children from one womb.
Right. So that, yeah, very good. That in itself is tremendously outstanding, right?
Right, because 6 children, even nowadays with modern medicine, 6 children is not only extremely rare, but even 5 children, they usually don't survive, I don't think.
Yeah, it's very, very unusual, right?
I've never heard of sextuplets. I've heard of 5. I guess it's quintuplets. And I've heard of 5 surviving.
Right.
But
yeah, but that's with a lot of
miracle.
help. Hmm. Okay. Just see Mitzionim Sham. I'm not sure if Mitzionim Sham is that part of the pasuk, Mitzionim Sham?
Oh, I just closed the book.
Okay. Mamish, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a pasuk there. Let's see. Mitzionim, that might be the Haggada. Mitzionim, that I don't. Yeah, the pasuk doesn't say them not being Mitzionim. It says about them Yishutzu, right? That all that.
It looks like the pasuk is the same as in the Haggada.
Yeah, that's right. That at that point, you're right. That part of the is a quote from the Haggada is quoting the pasuk, but Mitziyanim Sham is the Haggada's commentary about what happened.
Where do you see it says Mitzianim Sham?
That's that says here. Yata Samcha Hashem Elokecha Kokayev Shemayim Rov Hayu Sham Legoy. They were there as a nation. Malamed, this teaches you Shayu Yisrael Mitziyanim Sham.
I'm not seeing where you are.
That's so it starts with that same in a line or two into that paragraph being Misnei Ma'at.
Name I don't know. I'm not following. I'm not seeing it. I see what I just read. Gadol Atzum. Where's it that?
That's go ahead, Zoom. So it's just before that, right? Right? Milamed Shah Yisrael Mitziyonim Shah.
Ah, okay, I see it. It's a previous sentence. Okay, I was looking in the wrong place. Okay, so you're saying you don't see that in the pasuk, right?
Mitziyonim, this Mitziyonim, that's the Haggada.
Right,
Haggada's commentary.
right. Yeah, I get that. I understand.
Right. Okay, so
I think we're out of time.
okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so if you want, we'll come back and we'll try and come back to this tomorrow, and we'll take a break and come back to we'll start the Mishnah Berurah soon.
Okay. So I'll host.
Yeah, you want to start the meeting in 5 minutes or so?
Yeah.
Great.
Do I need to notify anybody? You think? If
I don't know,
you're not.
Mayor, I think Roy said he won't be able to make it. The mayor might want to make it. He might be able to join us.
I'll send Mayor an email.
Okay, that's good.
All right.
So we'll see you. Thank you, Lou. See you soon.